Hey Ted, these are your 190SL carburetors, fully machined and rebuilt. We'll go over a few basics real quick. Everything on these carburetors has been touched. We got new bushings, new throttle shafts. The center line of the throttle shafts has been plumbed to the bore of the carburetors, which is not always the case with Solex. All your mounting surfaces, all your flat surfaces, everything that could be dressed down, machined, milled has been done so, to where these carburetors are now no longer tweaked and warped from thermal expansion, and everything is nice and plumb like it's supposed to be. Alright, idle mixture screws. You got one for each barrel of the carburetor, and this is the one that you use to adjust with. The second barrel idle mixture screw is a dummy. Do not touch it. Same thing over here on this carburetor. The idle is handled by the idle jets, G55 idle jets. So if the car runs but won't idle, it is solely due to this idle jet, and this idle jet right here simply fills a hole because the carburetor does not idle on the second barrel. So this jet is always available if you need to swap it over to here in case this one gets clogged. And but they have a very teeny orifice on the idle jet, which clogs very easily. So fuel filtration is critical on these engines. The original fuel filter is not worth much, so I always recommend installing an extra inline fuel filter. All new factory gasket soft parts. All soft parts are new in factory, as you can tell here. And one of the reasons I've been working with these carburetors is we always drip check them. Always a problem when you have all your accelerator pump bodies and jets on the bottom of the carburetor where the fuel can drip out. About the only adjustment you can make besides idle mixture screw is choke linkage. You can adjust these levers up and down to where they will get in line with your cable to your airbox. Speaking of the airbox, you've already mounted these. You've already done this kind of work before, but always mount your carburetors loosely on the intake, then fit your big aluminum airlog in place, and to where you line up your carburetors on the airlog, then go in and tighten your carburetors to the intake, and that way you can put your airlog in off and on very easily. Otherwise, there's enough movement in the carburetors that the airlog will get off. The carburetors can be out of alignment with respect to the airlog. And then you can also check where you want these levers to end up with respect to the cable that's coming down straight. And remember, these levers are trying to define an arc going up this way in an arc, while the cable is pulling straight up, and so it isn't a really good system. So make sure everything is as free as possible. Now we obviously have got excellent function on your chokes, so that's not a factor. Notice when I do the choke that the throttle is actually moving. You can see that. And this is the function of this little teeny screw back here. And believe it or not, the adjustment on this screw is a clearance of 15 thousandths between this lever, the throttle lever, and the choke lever. And I will set that here. But that's but believe it or not, they would expect you to put a feeler gauge in there and do 15 thousandths on that thing. But the only way you can do it is when the carburetors are off. Let's see, now we're going to do actual testing, real world testing and adjustment. And so what you're going to do is make sure you got fuel up to your carburetors. What I like to do is goose them a couple of times. And we go to full choke, switch on. Now remember, these carburetors are cold. you can only tune these things once they've gotten up to operating temperature. Now I've got these set pretty low just to demonstrate how nice the carburetors work. And this is on a cold engine, so it's pretty damn impressive. Now we'll get the engine warmed up. It won't take long. It's about 95 degrees outside. Waiting for operating temperature to come up, or water temperature to get up to operating temp. Nice response. Getting close to operating temp. Thermostat just opened. Alright, we're up to temp. At least for this engine, we're up to temp. I'm not going to tell you I mean, this engine runs very cool when it's outside the car. Alright, tuning. First of all, you disconnect the carburetors so they are running independently of each other. And then we will address linkage at the very end. Next, and make sure that this throttle never, goes open. It runs free by itself. I got a spring attached up here, and a spring attached to the number 1 carburetor, so it doesn't go anywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to check to make sure our second barrels are holding, and are holding in terms of tightness. We don't want them leaking any air because we don't idle on the second barrel. We idle on the first. So as you can see right there. You can see our little needle didn't move. Oh, by the way, you need to get you one. If you don't have one of these synchrometers, get one. And the version you need is the BK 1-35, 1-35. And it works perfectly right out of the box. You don't need any adapters. Now we know that our second barrels are not bleeding any air. We can start adjusting. And what we're going to do is adjust airflow. And that has to do with our idle mixture screws right back here, and we want the airflow to be the same on both carburetors. Now this thing's running about 600-700 RPM, a little bit on the low side, but I wanted to demonstrate how nicely they work. And I've already adjusted these, obviously, so there's 5 and change right there. Alright, and it's not quite 5 and change, so we're going to dial this one up a smidge. Alright, so now we have uniform airflow. Now we're going to check our idle mixture screws, get the proper running. Now these things have been remachined, so they are very sensitive. And what you can do is dial it in and out until the engine stumbles, and you're going to get your midpoint. So we're going to hear the engine slow down or stumble, and we're going to adjust. You should be able to tell it, and it only takes like a quarter of a turn or less. already started to degrade. And I back it out. You see how sensitive it is? Starting to degrade. Alright, so we go back to our midpoint, which I've obviously already tuned these things. But this is how you do it if for some reason you have to adjust these things, which you will be adjusting them to your engine. So you should be able to do this. You need to do this to make sure these carbs are tuned to your engine. That's how sensitive they are. And never screw these things down, cram them down tight, and then back them off. If you have to get a starting point, then screw it in until it just barely touches and back it out one turn, because you just don't. There's no need to screw these idle mixture screws down super tight to begin the process of tuning by backing them out 1.5 turns. Now we've done that carburetor, we do the other carburetor. Make sure we're on camera. Degrading. Smooth it out. Starting to degrade, you can hear it. You can also hear the air rushing in there more, in through the throat. Alright, running like it's supposed to. Now, this is, like I said, this is running a little low on the idle, so but I just want to demonstrate how nicely it idles, which is an indication of the quality of the machine work. So what we're going to do now is going to kick this up and tell you what we're going to do. We'll just do it by, remember, this is a screw with the same thread pitch on both carburetors. So we're going to screw this in the same amount on both carburetors, and we'll see how well we do without the synchro meter. So I'm going to give this about an 1/8 of a turn. The other one, about 1/8 of a turn. Kick up the idle a little bit. Let's see how close we got. So we got 6 here. And 6 over there. Perfect. Now, last thing you're going to do is you're going to adjust your linkage so that when you come in here and snap this ball in place, nothing changes. Obviously, I'd already done that. And now we've got a magnificent set of carburetors. Shut it off. We'll do a hot start. I am pleased to say, Ted, we have got you a really, really nice set of carburetors. See if there's anything else. Okay, now then, obviously when installing and taking off the fuel lines, you have an extra, have a wrench down here to stabilize the fitting in the body, in the float bowl cover, and then just wrench here. Otherwise, take the chance of ripping these out, ripping this fitting out of the float bowl cover. Trying to think, that's pretty close to it. Obviously, if you have any questions, I'm available. And again, thank you very much. Take care.